Damn. That was the best fight I've seen in a long, long time. I don't even know where to begin because my blood pressure is through the roof. The rematch is already sold. Maybe a trilogy. T-Street Controversy with Fight View 360. It exceeded expectations. In fact, it saved a lackluster card overall. This fight alone has probably shot this $25 here in the States pay-per-view up from what I rated it, a B going in, to leading into this fight, a C, close to a C minus, to now a A. Just an A. Not an A plus, an A, because of the main event alone. Both of these guys show chins. They showed that, like, you know, ain't no pussies up in there. Excuse my language. You can tell the ego was all in there on the line. They lived up to... Their fight was better than both of their fathers' fights. And I watched them earlier this week. Let me know how you feel. We got a lot to talk about. I'm T-Street Controversy with Fight View 360. And both of them, listen. I never really talk about how, Gordon Ramsay, I never really talk about how it's like, yo, I want to see this rematch as soon as possible. Conor Benn was clearly the smaller fighter in there. It was noticeable. But his engine and his moxie, his grit, just kept pushing him through. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say Eubank Jr. taking the last 2 rounds sealed it for me. Let's listen to these cards. Take your time out, like the video, subscribe. I'm in awe.
Ladies and gentlemen, we go to the scorecards after 12 rounds. All 3 judges scored the same, 116.
The big story is Conor Benn winning because Eubank's the favorite.
Chris Eubank Jr.
He was supposed to win. Still, hopefully, excuse me. Excuse me.
Chris Eubank Jr. together with Senior, but Conor Benn should stand tall tonight.
Nothing for Conor Benn to be ashamed of. I mean, both of their stock just rose, especially Eubank Jr. I guess he's probably going to be a shoo-in to get Canelo if Canelo goes on to beat William Skull next week, which he should, and goes on to, damn, he hurt, and goes on to beat Terrence Crawford. So whatever Eubank Jr.'s next fight is, he's closing his career out with money. Because remember, he's 36 years old now. Now, there were some scary points in the fight for both of the fighters. Both of them were taking big shots. Both of them, you've seen them at one point in time or another really get shaken in the fight. That's a good thumbnail right there. So what's pissing me off about this broadcast is they haven't had anybody doing the post-fight interviews for none of the fighters, not even Billam-Smith, who it may have been his last fight. They just got the fighters in the ring, and they got just Conor Benn just, you know, I guess the silence is golden. There's Big Turkey. You got Eddie Hearn in the ring. So let's do a bit of a jump cut. We'll be right back. Okay,
Chris,
here we go.
Congratulations. 2 words, and those 2 words are Eubank supremacy. Tell the world what this means to you right now.
It's yes. First of all, we thank the one above. I knew I was capable of that. I just needed someone to bring me out, bring that out of me. And I'm not gonna lie, I didn't expect that he'd be the guy to do that. But the fact that our fathers did what they did all those years ago, it brings out a different soul, a different spirit into you. And that's what we both showed here tonight.
What do you believe won you the fight tonight, Chris, through those 12 rounds?
You know, I pushed through. There's a lot of things that have been going on in my life but I'm not going to get into right now. But
Look at his face.
I'm happy to have this man back with me, and we've upheld the family name like we said we were going to do, and yeah, onwards and upwards.
We weren't sure if we'd seen your father here tonight. How much of a lift did it give you on a night like this?
A lot. It was one
I
of
knew
those
he was
things
coming.
that was special.
Let me pause here.
Special.
Hopefully
He
it
needed to be
doesn't mess up my PC. I want you to see his face.
Lift did it give you on a night like this?
A lot. It was one of those things that was.
Sometimes if I pause, my PC crash. But look at his face. Swole up. Let's go back to live.
Are you of your son watching?
There we go.
He's never shown that.
Oh, damn.
But then
Look
again,
at this.
he's
Look
never
at this scene right here.
I underestimated him. You know, I didn't train for a
Look at
fight
this.
like that. You know, I didn't know he had that in him. He's never
Deep.
shown that. But then again, he's never had to show it. He had to show it tonight. And so did I.
Hang tight, Chris, because we are going to come back to you, of course. I do want to grab a word with your father. Chris, how special was that? As I said to Chris, we weren't sure if we would see you tonight, but my obvious question is, how proud are you of your son watching that from ringside?
Listen, I mean, he couldn't move around the ring, and so he had to stand toe-to-toe. I mean, that is legendary behavior in the ring. Legendary. And this, Conor Benn, as I said, Conor Benn is an extraordinary fighter. You know, he's gone pear-shaped somewhere, but an extraordinary fighter. And you saw that here tonight. He wanted to tear, and I thought he would blow out in maybe 4 or 5 rounds. He's going.
And Conor did a clean.
He's going strong. He's going strong right the way through the fight.
Look,
I
they're
am
still
so
hugging.
proud of him. That's my son. That's right. That's why I'm here. I was always going to be here. That's right. Rastafari.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Mr. Eubank. A pleasure to speak to you. We're going to make our way over the ring, and we're going to try and speak to Conor Benn, who is here. Conor, we are live. We're live on DAZN. Conor, an incredible fight, an incredible effort.
He sold
Everything
himself
left
to
in
me.
this ring at Tottenham
Conor
Hotspur
Benn,
tonight. Can you tell
I'm
us
sold.
what's going through
I believe
your mind
now.
and perhaps in terms of the game plan?
He may have lost,
what
but he
didn't
kind of
quite
won.
go to plan?
I don't know. I mean, maybe 14 months out of the ring, played a factor. Probably say that'd be the only thing. Just maybe inactivity. But apart from that, yeah, I felt like it was a close fight. I'm not going to go, yeah, I think I won it and all that. I've got to watch it back. I know it was close. You know, I stayed on the ropes maybe a bit too long. He worked harder towards the end.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to watch it back, man. But I enjoyed it, and a massive thank you to all my supporters who come out. Some homecoming.
Chris said you surprised him. He didn't think you had that in you here tonight. Has your opinion of him changed after 12 rounds like that?
Yeah, listen, we always knew Chris is a good fighter. You know, all the fighting talk is fighting talk. He's a good fighter. I believe I can fight at 160. You know, if we don't do the rematch, which I'd love to avenge that loss, go back down to welterweight and win the WBC world title. It's either Mario Barrios or the rematch for Eubank, whichever happens next, you know, I'll be content with.
I'll say, Conor, commiserations, but congratulations on a fantastic fight and an incredible show. It takes two to make a fight like this. Nigel, immediate thoughts on your son's efforts in this ring tonight? That was incredible.
I thought he done really well. You know, it's, he learned a lot from this. He come back stronger. You know, like he was working too much on the ropes. Should have been off the ropes. We're not taking nothing away from Chris. It's his night. We can handle defeat gracefully. You know what I mean? And now we go back to the drawing board, you know, where we went wrong. So that's it, you know.
Nigel, thanks very much for speaking to us. Promoter Eddie Hearn is here as well. We'll try and grab a word with
Damn, Turkey making him take a picture.
What a fight, first of all, from ringside. Your immediate verdict?
Unbelievable. I mean, I couldn't split him at the end. I thought Conor Benn was winning the fight. I thought he lost the last 2 rounds, and I couldn't split him. 116, 112, 3 times. I'm not going to... You've seen me moan before about scores. It is what it is, but I don't see Chris Eubank winning that fight by 4 rounds at all. But forget that. Just unbelievable respect for both men. I could not be prouder of Conor Benn for what he's been through and the heart that he showed in the ring tonight. You know, Nigel Benn was the people's champion. Tonight, Conor Benn became the people's champion. He rose up from 147 pounds to fight a middleweight in there. He took the kitchen sink. He never stopped trying to win the fight. And that's what the public love to see.
Word.
Someone that, to the final bell, does not stop throwing punches and trying to win. A little bit of inactivity, a little bit of inexperience, but I could not be prouder of Conor Benn. Tonight, I believe he won the entire hearts of the country and everybody that tuned in. I thought he could have won the fight. Razor thin. We'll see what happens. Look, Conor Benn is a 147-pounder. He's going to win world titles down there. We'll see if he'll do the rematch or not at 160. He'll want to do it. It was one of the best fights, one of the most dramatic fights I've seen. Big respect to Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn. Two great examples. A sport built out of respect, and those two warriors should respect each other after that. I could not be prouder of Conor Benn.
Absolutely. Thank you, Eddie. What a stage. What a fight. Back to you.
Man. So listen. All right, let's talk. Let's talk. Conor Benn stock has risen tremendously. It sounds like it was a one-way rematch clause that if Eubank lost, he could get the rematch. That's what it sounds like. But I think that it would be a wise decision to get that money and get that and do that rematch. Now, if the Canelo fights out there, obviously take that first. But, you know, in the meantime, he may not be getting Canelo unless the Crawford talks fall apart. But both of them, put it this way, turkey out shake wants that fight to happen, so it's going to happen. But if that doesn't happen, then Eubank Jr. goes on to that, and he can lose to Canelo and still fall back on the rematch with Conor Benn. Similar to, since Tyson Fury, he can fall back and come back and fight Francis Ngannou again, despite him losing to Usyk multiple times. So I guess what I'm saying is it's a rematch, like strike while the iron is hot. Like this fight is flaming right now. You can do it in another stadium. It's on fire. Even the entrances ring walks were the main event. Just it sold everything. I'm glad that I spent the $25. I was bitching and complaining. I was like, man, 25. We used to get this for free on DAZN with our subscription. Then we got to have a subscription and pay $25. Man, I was bitching. But, and by the way, if you go look on the channel, I covered every fight on the card. And I gave a ranking. And leading into the main event, as I said earlier, the pay-per-view was a C. Like, it was a C. I was like, the main event, let's see. I was expecting Conor Benn to come out hot, like a lot of people did, and to get knocked out. And to slow down, but he didn't slow down. I mean, yeah, he got tired the last quarter of the fight, and that's when really Eubank Jr. just started taking over with a bunch of, he just, how can I explain it? A lot of his punches had no real power on them. You can say, well, it was the weight or whatever it was, and I'm talking about closing out the fight, but he started loading up on him, meaning with output. He started throwing more. And he started stealing rounds. I don't want to say stealing. He started closing out the rounds. So, but besides that, it was like you can argue. I don't think you can argue a draw. I think that Eubank Jr. clearly won the fight, even if it was a 115, 113. I don't think you can argue. It was nowhere I can see a draw. But with certain adjustments, and the fact that Father Time, Eubank Jr. is about 7 years older or so, give or take. He's 35. Yeah, 7 years older. You know, Eubank Jr. And if they're able to sneak in the weight thing again, because you can also argue that Eubank Jr. Didn't really recover as well as he could have if it wasn't the weight issues going on. And both sides had excuses ready because Eubank Jr., Conor Benn, as you can see, Eddie Hearn, well, proud of him. He's a 147 fighter. Conor Benn, well, I can go back down to 147 and win a title. Eubank Jr., if he would have lost, well, they would damn well they would have been like the weight. They're already going to chalk this performance up probably to the weight. The fact that he wasn't able to knock out the smaller fighter, but the weight, the size was definitely noticeable up in there. By the way, we're going to be here all weekend. We're going to be in New York next week for Ryan Garcia, Rolly Romero, Devin Haney, Jose Ramirez, and Arnold Barboza, Teofimo Lopez. Saturday, it's going to be Canelo versus William Skull. Conor Benn supposedly knocked out William Skull or made William Skull quit Canelo's opponent in sparring. So that's something that, that tells you something right there. And I believe it now more and more. I'm not saying Nigel would lie. I find him credible, but he was saying all during the week that Conor Benn was sparring William Skull, and, William Skull quit in his corner halfway through 15 or 12 rounds or whatever. So Conor Benn's stock has risen, and he can now go down to 147, and, he put it this way, he's going to bring in bigger crowds in the UK. Hopefully he keeps his body clean and they don't fuck up the momentum, because as Eddie Hearn said, I agree with, he's kind of the people's champion now. Not saying that Chris Eubank Jr. didn't show that he's the man, but it's just that's the only ways I can see it going. So with that being said, thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at T Street Controversy. Great fight, one of the best I've seen in a long time. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.